Know your worth and then add tax. That's a phrase many of us hear, but I feel like it gets lost on us working in the hospital setting because we feel that it doesn't apply to us. That's what our guest Morgan McCaughey is here to talk to us about today. Whether you are working in the hospital setting or making your way through entrepreneurship, this episode will encourage you to stop being afraid to negotiate your pay and benefits. We don't have because we don't ask. No more of that. Let Morgan empower you to demand your worth. You don't want to miss this episode and all the gems that she is dropping. Hope you love it.
Welcome to the Nurse Boss Shift. It's your girl, Dr. Kiana Jones.
And I'm Crystal P, the Beauty NP.
And today we are coming with, I don't know if it's a special podcast, but it's definitely one that we have not done. We do have a special guest on, but also we are live on set.
Yes, on set.
You guys know we were talking about at the end of the year that we were going to have in-person sessions and we were making all these exciting changes. And so here we are in one of our new podcast rooms for the Nurse Boss Shift. And you guys, make sure you tell us what you think. We have a special guest today. As always, you guys, someone who we feel can add value to you and your experience on your journey to entrepreneurship or increasing revenue or whatever it is that you're looking to do in your life. And her name is Miss Morgan McCaughey. Welcome, Morgan.
Hello, Dr. Jones, Crystal. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you. And so, as I told you before we kind of started on camera, I would love for you to give your introduction to our listeners and our viewers on a little background about you.
Yeah. Well, hey, y'all. I'm Morgan, and I'm based out of Seattle, Washington, and I run a little business called Braggin Rights. I started this business a little over a year ago with the sole purpose and driving force of closing the gender wage gap one woman at a time. And y'all, it's both hard work, but let me tell you, it's working. Last year, my clients averaged $25,000 extra per offer when they worked with me. So I'm just so excited to be here today to chat about how entrepreneurial nurses can think outside of the box, whether that's negotiating more money for their current salary or exploring their entrepreneurial pursuits to really live the life that they want to lead.
Yes. I have to say, and I'm embarrassed to say this, but I've never negotiated my salary. And I've always resented, and just because I was jealous of those who actually had the gall to do it, right? Yeah. Because I was scared that if they offered me this and I tried to push back, they'd give it to someone else. Right. So, and I know there are many nurses out here who actually have the same experience where they're not confident in negotiating their salary. So I would love for you to tell me, when you think about considering the fact that most of our listeners are nurses, should they always do that? Are there certain times where they should do it, and how do they do it?
What an absolute great question, Dr. Jones. So you're not alone, frankly. Only 8% of women negotiate their first salary, and there are huge gaps when it comes to the ways that women show up in offer negotiation situations. And what we know is that women are not incapable of negotiating. Actually, studies show that they're just as keen of negotiators as men when it comes to negotiating for other people. And so that's where I really encourage folks to think about negotiating for someone else when they're negotiating for themselves. That's a big piece of advice. And also your question around how do we know when the right time to negotiate is? The answer is always. Every opportunity for nurses in particular that might be after a particular education certification, like maybe you just went back to school and you gained a new certification. That's a great time for you to explore a negotiation. Maybe it's during a promotional cycle or when you're changing hospitals, changing roles. These are all really great times for you as a nurse to explore how can I be making a little bit more money? just during an interview process is not the only negotiation window. Whenever you're getting a promotion, that's another great window. So there's actually lots of windows. The challenge is overcoming your imposter syndrome, which I know we've all got a little bit of, to say, actually, this is what I'm worth, and show up to that conversation knowing what you want and how you're going to get it.
Okay. Yeah, I love that.
I have a question, Morgan. I think for nurses, or it may just be the institution that I'm used to working at, they have these set kind of, you've been a nurse this year, this is what you're making. I think it kind of deters us from negotiating because we just feel like, well, they have it all planned out, there's no deviating. So what would you say for someone who is in that type of situation? How would they then negotiate if the job seems to already have kind of set standards of what you're able to make?
Yeah, this is such a great question. And nurses have a very specific kind of negotiating environment that they're existing within. Like, you're often dealing with unions or with hospitals. There are constructive factors and restrictive factors, even like what you're talking about with specific pay bands around how many years experience you have. What I would tell folks here is think about the non-monetary benefits that you can also negotiate in association with your pay. So when it comes to negotiation, salary negotiation, it's not just your total cash compensation, as we call it, your TCC, which is the money that goes in your wallet. It's also those non-monetary benefits. And these are places where nurses can really expand their negotiation practice. So maybe they want to negotiate a different shift schedule, specific paid time off, like flexibility on schedule, or even scrubs and nursing equipment included in their pay. There are ways that you can get really creative as a nurse in a already like highly structured negotiation environment. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I think we don't really think about the non-monetary benefits.
Yeah.
I mean, we always just think about the cash, but I want to go back to something you said. What I took away from that, and I just want to make sure I understand too. You said that like when we get certified, let's say if we get certified for our specialty or something like that, that is also a time where we could discuss some type of compensation for that. Because most hospitals, I won't say most, right? Yeah. Probably the larger ones have it structured to where like, okay, if you get certified, let's say, I don't know, like CCRN, right, for ICU. So if you get certified for that, then you automatically get, I don't know, $2 an hour or something like that more. Are you saying that they should negotiate? Like, what would that look like for a nurse who knows that the hospital says that you get, $2 more? Should they have a conversation about more money, or should they have a conversation about the non-monetary benefits, or what would that look like for them that they should do?
Yeah, that's a really great question, Dr. Jones. So when it comes to nurses, like you guys are obviously the experts. I wanted to share that I am not a nurse. I am a pay negotiation expert. And so that's why I know this is kind of a special episode for you guys today, where you're not talking to an expert nurse today, but you are talking to somebody who's an expert in making the women more money. In this situation in particular, can you tell me more? So there's an automatic pay bump when you get the certification. Is that what I'm hearing?
In some locations, mind you, we could be talking about just making sure that they do get compensated for it, because it depends on if you work at like a larger institution, right? So the larger institutions typically have it set in place that like if you get certification in your specialty, so if you're working on a certain unit, CCRN is critical care registered nurse. And that's like, if you work in ICU and you get CCRN certified, then you get a bump. Right? And every hospital is different on what that is, right? So you get a bump. But if you work on another unit, like PCU, if you have a PCCN certification, you get a bump. So whatever the specialty is, if you work with kids, work with whatever, you get a bump. But the question is, should we be, or should there be a negotiation at that point? And don't look at it as far as nurses. This is any different, employed position that anyone is in, if they get certified, typically as an employee, there's some kind of compensation for it. So are you suggesting that, or is there a way, or should we be having that conversation, or should we just take what we get, is what I'm asking.
Yeah. To go back to your initial question of like, should you take what you can get? No, you should absolutely be negotiating at that window. Thanks for that clarification there. So what we know about women in particular is that it's actually easier for them to negotiate like time and flexibility than it is for them to negotiate money. That is something that shows up repeatedly. And it's because of the roles that, frankly, women have historically played in society. When we're mothers, we're healthcare workers, we're keepers of the schedule. We are the people who are often like holding the family together. And that means that historically women have negotiated more powerfully around that scheduling and childcare aspect than they have on the pay front, which I think is a really interesting aspect that probably many nurses are very familiar with. So to the question of like, should they be negotiating at any window? Yes. And that is an opportunity for you to reevaluate your schedule, your time, your metrics of success, and what is pushing you to the next level. Or do you want to be on a particular schedule so that you can maybe go run your own business? What does it look like for you to take into consideration the other entrepreneurial aspects that you have in play? Maybe getting that certification is an opportunity for you to leverage your expertise and shift things up so that you can focus on something else.
That's good. I was just thinking of those nurses who are thinking about or wanting to get into entrepreneurship, and maybe using this, because we always say when you get into entrepreneurship and you have something else going on, then it kind of makes going to work easier for those nurses of us who are burnt out. So I'm just thinking of, if I'm in that entrepreneurial space where I know that's what I want to get to, then this would be a perfect time to start negotiating higher pay, a different schedule, like you said, because that's only going to supplement your entrepreneurial journey in that sense. And I'm just wondering, I was saying, I like how you suggested women have an easier time when they're fighting or trying to negotiate for someone else. So I was just thinking of, if all nurses are women nurses, maybe realize that it's not for you, it's your kids. You know, how much more could you do with extra money for your kids, or how much more freedom can you buy yourself with maybe negotiating more money, but I don't want to say a lesser schedule, an easier schedule that will allow you more time and freedom to work on your business. So I think this is a perfect time if nurses would kind of think about it in that sense of, you're negotiating and you're fighting not for yourself, but for your family as a whole. I think that would make it easier for us to think of it in that context, to be able to go to the negotiating table.
Crystal, you are so right there that as maybe sometimes the breadwinner or the mom in this situation, it might be easier for you to say, I'm negotiating for my kids, I'm negotiating for a better life, and not just necessarily, I need to take what's on the table in front of me because it's what's on the table. That mindset in particular is one I'm working to shift when it comes to like imposter syndrome and this aspect of like, well, I'm just a nurse. I hear that from even my loved ones who are nurses. I'm just a nurse. I just do this. You're freaking superwoman out there, and you are holding it all together, and you are keeping the humans alive, and you are doing like absolutely critical work, and you deserve to be paid equitably for it. And that's another thing that I wanted to bring up here is, we've talked about women a lot so far, but actually women make up about 87% of the entire nursing task force, but on average make about $8,000 less than their male nurse counterparts. So there's we know that there's a gender wage gap, but there's a huge nursing gender wage gap. And that actually compounds for BIPOC people, which I'm sure you ladies are probably familiar with, whether it's Asian Pacific Islander or Native American. This like gender wage gap worsens for everyone except white women. So I'm curious, do you guys have experiences around pay negotiation that you would want to share with the audience?
No, I never negotiated pay. That's what I've never, ever negotiated my pay when I worked.
I've never have to. And the reason why I asked you, I did just recently because a friend of mine is really big with negotiating. She's a physician, actually. So this last position that I got, I did try to negotiate, but it was the same thing about, well, the union says it's union. So the union says, you've worked this many hours, you've had this much experience. So you actually got the higher of the, what we could have gave you, but it still wasn't what I was asking for. But I think maybe if I went in with those non-monetary things, like maybe a week of vacation or this or that, then could have gotten that. But that's the only time. And probably because I had the entrepreneur thing on the side. So, if they fired me or said no, then I at least had that. But yeah, that's the only time that I've negotiated and I kind of got that pushback.
And even I worked in leadership for 5 years and I still never negotiated. Like, it was something, and I know this has to be true. I could negotiate as an entrepreneur, but as a nurse, I just felt like I was in a position of, and this goes back to and I always say nurses, we feel like we're in like servitude all the time, right? Because we're always giving. And that's in our careers. That's at the bedside. No matter what role you're in, it's like we overextend ourselves. And it's really what we feel we're supposed to be doing. That's what makes a good nurse, right? The truth of the matter is we should be compensated. And men don't think twice about being compensated for their worth, but we do. And even when I worked as a leader in healthcare, I felt like when my year was up and we had to do my evaluation, my competencies, what they gave me is what I took, right? I didn't really unless they said I did something bad, I took whatever it was that they gave me. But I find it when I was listening to you talking and when Crystal was speaking about negotiating in her role, I was looking on my phone to see what percentage of nurses are women. You already talked about it. It's 87%. And then I was thinking, well, then it makes sense why there is such a gap. And it's not just only in nursing as a whole. If you segment that to CRNA, there's a gap. The men that are in that role versus the women, there is a pay gap. ICU, pay gap. All of them, there is a pay gap. Now, they say it's because they're trying to attract men to the profession, right? So that it can be more diverse. But I just don't believe that. I believe because we are female dominated, that they look at us like the same way the rest of the world looks at us, as it's women, and we don't need that much money compared to men. We are not as valuable as them, is what I believe it translates to. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Dr. Jones, I think you're right, frankly. And we see this dichotomy show up across industries. This is something with tech in particular, we see where marketing, which is a historically female dominated department, is often paid dramatically less than engineering, which is a historically male dominated department. And there's similar dichotomies amongst sales and customer service, where sales is seen as a masculine role, whereas customer service, the more frankly servitude based customer service facing roles are historically more words are hard, filled with more women. Women show up in these spaces where empathy is a job requirement, but they're not compensated for the emotional labor and even physical labor in the case of nurses that they're doing.
I agree with that totally.
Yeah.
I think there is a difference though when it comes to the type of, a new nurse, if you come in with zero experience, the hospital or healthcare organization is going to take a loss at least the first year of you working for them. But those of us who have experience, I think we have negotiating power that we are definitely not tapping into. When you come as a new grad, they have to train you. You pretty much don't know anything. So a new grad if you're baccalaureate or associates or a master's degree nurse, you're going to come in at whatever that black and white number is, right? But now once you get into, I have experience. I've been a nurse for 15 years. I've been a nurse for 7 years. I worked in all these different units. I have all these different certifications. I think that's really the opportunity that is missed a lot of times with experienced nurses. Because like I said, I was 10 years in when I first started as a leader in leadership, and I still didn't negotiate. So I think those are really missed opportunities. But I would like for you to take us through, and this could be, I know, you, like you said, you're not a nurse, but still, I believe the framework is the same, right? The principles are the same. So take us through a negotiate, like how does that look?
Yeah, that's what
like when you negotiate. Take us through, like you applied for the job. Okay.
Yeah. So glad that you asked this question. So I'll climb up on my soapbox now. So thank you for coming to my TED Talk. When it comes to negotiation, the place that it starts, the place that it should absolutely start is with you and your laptop before you have your first interview, doing real salary research on what your market value is. I don't care if you are working for a union and you know what the range is, or you feel like there are these really explicit restrictions around you. Arming yourself with data is the difference between walking blind into a negotiation conversation and feeling empowered and frankly, maybe even empowered to turn down an offer that doesn't match your value. So knowing what that value is first and foremost is absolutely critical. And I'm going to share in my triangulate your pay worksheet with y'all. We'll make sure that the audience can get that because you don't want to be just looking at a single source either. You want to be looking across 3, maybe 4 different sources, and the worksheet has a list of them so that you can go and figure out, okay, what is the location that I'm working in? How many years experience do I have? What certifications am I bringing to bear? These are all things that are going to impact your pay and that you should absolutely be taking into account whenever you are calculating what your midpoint is and determining your ask. The next thing that I like to do with clients is set 3 markers. So we're going to have a reaching rate of pay, an acceptable rate of pay, and an unacceptable rate of pay. That reaching rate of pay that you just determined based on your assessment of your value in the market, it should be a number that makes you afraid. It should make your stomach tingle and make you feel nervous and like, oh gosh, this is more money than I've ever asked for in my entire life. It should give you butterflies when you say that number. But the point is, like with this strategy, is that you're working down, you're working backwards, essentially. You're trying to meet the employer in the middle by taking yourself, and I know you ladies as entrepreneurs are probably familiar with this strategy of you're going to ask for a little bit more and then expect them to walk you back. So that's why we end up at that acceptable rate of pay, that second level of pay. So that's the number that you're hoping for, but you ask for a little bit more so that you come down to that. And then you've got that unacceptable rate of pay so that maybe this is an opportunity that you're excited about, but based on your market research, it does not line up to what you need to be able to afford your lifestyle, to afford to live, maybe to afford to explore other entrepreneurial opportunities. And so that gives you as a worker permission to say, I'm not going past this number. And if the opportunity is below that, then it's time for me to look elsewhere. So that would be kind of the first phase of any negotiation for me. And those are the phases that I think are frankly missed right now. And specifically what I'm trying to teach to women and minorities. The next couple of phases are things that people are probably more familiar with. You show up in the first interview and you ask what the pay range is. I like to ask this question before communicating my pay expectations because you want to know what they're working off of. And this can sometimes feel like a stalemate where they want to know what your pay is and you want to know what their pay is. And it kind of can create this back and forth. And that's why, again, it's so important to have that reaching rate of pay that you can communicate at the drop of a hat, because otherwise maybe you're saying what your previous pay was and you're basing your pay off of something that frankly has nothing to do with the conversation that you're having now around your pay.
So you said the reaching rate of pay, you said the 3 levels of pay that we should have already in place. But let's just say you go in, should you wait until the interview to have the conversation about what's the budget for this role, or should you do it at the end? Like, at what point should you have that? Because I think the first one to talk about it is the one who is in control. Because if they ask you first, then it's going to be like, oh, well, what are you paying? Right? So at what point in that journey should you have that? Is it when they call you and say, hey, we would like to schedule an interview with you? Or, because I think it would be a waste of time to do it after that. It's like, if they call me for an interview and it's at my below rate, I think you called it a below unacceptable. If it's at my unacceptable, then I don't want to waste their time or mine. Yeah. So at what point on the journey should we just ask what the budget is for this position?
Yeah, immediately. You hit the nail right on the head there, Dr. Jones. In that first conversation with any recruiter, ask what that pay range is, so you're not wasting your time or their time, anyone's time, your valuable time on interviewing for a role that isn't going to pay you what you're worth. So you can just cross that opportunity off. So ask for that pay range, and then that empowers you to move through the rest of the conversation knowing like whether or not this is a good match, and you can determine that kind of like through your conversations, and are there other benefits that they can bring to bear. When it comes to that final negotiation, you want to communicate your pay expectations again once you have that offer on the table. Nothing exists until there's that actual offer. So that's the time where the negotiation really opens up, and when you should take a pause, because that's also the time that you could potentially go after a counter offer with your current employer.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that makes so much sense. But you were going on to tell us about the next part of your framework. Sorry, I just had to ask that about the time frame.
No, you're good. I have a lot of passion around these topics. So, and that's really like, so that next step is once you get that offer on the table, which there could be months between that initial interview where you communicate your pay for the first time or your pay expectations and you feel that match out versus or until you get to that, like having that offer in hand. That's that moment where I want everybody listening, when you're at that moment, pause. Feel really freaking excited about the fact that you got this offer. Pat yourself on the back, but don't respond just yet. Because what you need to do is go back and check out your pay. Is it in line? Do I want to get a counter offer? This is your negotiation moment to use as you see fit. And I think that's that moment where we're all just like responding to the email saying, yes, I sign on the dotted line, sign me up. And that's really your opportunity to hold back and say, actually, can I get what are the non-monetary benefits that I can ask for here? Does that answer your question?
Yes, it absolutely does. This will be the last question I wanted to ask, but I feel like it's one that probably our listeners would have as well. And that is, how often should we, let me give a little background. So nurses will stay at one job for 20 years, okay? They don't move around. They're
love it or hate it.
Godchildren, their godchildren are the parents are their coworkers, like, we don't leave, right? But I have read that this mindset keeps our earning potential very low. And I also believe from the perspective of an entrepreneur that we have to keep ourselves uncomfortable to continue to grow. And so what is your perspective as a salary expert negotiator on increasing the earning potential? Like, how often should a person move jobs? Like, should they always be thinking about, increasing their earning potential? What should that look like?
Yeah, this is an excellent question. And it really depends on the individual and their goals. Maybe they prioritize stability over everything else and they want to stay at the same location. In that case, like, great. You should be negotiating during those windows of promotion to make sure that you're staying kind of like at market value. But to tell you the truth, Dr. Jones, the average pay increase when somebody changes roles is 10%. So you get, on average, you get a 10% pay bump when you change roles. The average merit increase when you stay at the same role year over year is 2%. So you make more money when you change jobs. It's absolutely true. The fastest way to get a raise is to change jobs. And that is true across all industries, and a statistic from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. But what we know is that the length of time in jobs, the average tenure in any particular role is decreasing, and has decreased dramatically over the last decade or so. So folks of the baby boomer generations, they could expect on average about 12 years of tenure at an employer, whereas the latest tenure statistics for folks ages 18 to 24 is 12 months.
They're not playing. They're leaving.
Yes, immediately.
They're leaving. And even we see that in nursing too. Like the young nurses, they're like, oh, no, we didn't sign up for this. The Gen Zs, I must give it to them because they're not wasting time. Yeah. And so that's why I wanted to, because I know it's like a fine line. Like you don't want to be job hopping every 6 months. But then at the same time, just hearing that, if I stayed at a job for 3 years, over a period of a decade, I could have had a 30% increase. That's money you could put towards your business.
Yeah, exactly.
Or, put towards something that you find important or valuable in your life, rather than staying and arguing for 2%, 3% at that. And that's rare that you can get 3% cost of living.
Yep.
And there are people who leave their job and then come back and get more.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Go work somewhere else and then come back. That's crazy.
And this is why talking about pay is so absolutely critical, because it has been a black box, and women in particular have been not just dissuaded, but there have been societal structures keeping us grateful, keeping us kind of like in place. And we're here to like shatter those glass ceilings. I know that you ladies are doing that from an entrepreneurial perspective. And what we know about pay is that it compounds over a lifetime. So the pay that you set the bar at when you first come out of university, that's going to set the bar for the pay for the rest of your life. And the higher that pay is, the higher your overall lifetime pay will be. So if you just accept the offer at every single stage, you are going to stagnate your own pay dramatically. And that's really the message I want to get out here is, think about the next time you're in a negotiation situation, whether that's from an entrepreneurial perspective or from a pay negotiation perspective. Take that second to ask, what do I want out of this? And am I being equitably compensated? And own your value enough to do the research to understand like the truth of that, because the data is out there, and there's so many questions around like DEI and equitable compensation these days. We can't trust employers to equitably compensate us as women. We really have to stand up and say, actually, this is what I'm worth, and I'm willing to fight for it.
Yeah.
And not be scared about it.
And not be scared about it, for sure. That's powerful. I'm going to tie this into entrepreneurship too, because and then we'll get into the next part. But I really feel like even just the startup costs and the expenses that you have to take on as a new entrepreneur, if you are arguing for your worth and getting compensated adequately, that's extra money that you can take and use to put towards your business, and that could appreciate also. So if you're able to generate an extra $500 a month using that strategy, that could go towards your business, which can be you can receive long-term benefits over time for that. So it's not just about keeping you in a job, but while you're there, you should be earning maximum what you can and taking the additional amount and putting it towards your business, which can also help you long-term as well. And I think people don't realize it's a long-term game. Like, it's not something that's instant, but you do reap the benefits over time. If you develop that strategy at the age of 18, you can imagine what your life is going to be like when you're 50, right? And you've said, I'm not settling, and you've always looked at it from that perspective of negotiating. I think it puts everyone in a better position, and even those who are interested in entrepreneurship as well. So Morgan, this has been really great. Yes. I feel like we need another one.
I know.
Because I had some more questions that I really want to ask, but for the sake of time, we're going to have to do part two of this. Because I do want to dive a little bit deeper into the actual process of negotiating.
Yeah. And then negotiating too as an entrepreneur, because I feel like that comes up a lot, probably even more than working as, in nursing. Like you said, it's those certain key points at a time in our career. But with entrepreneurship, you're constantly negotiating or telling someone your rate or your worth. So I think that would be good too, to dive more into that too.
Yeah, and those are principles. So one thing that's solid about principles, they don't change. And so I feel like definitely, like you said, Crystal, it could be something that we could talk about from an entrepreneur perspective, and women entrepreneurs. Again, like you talked about women. So it still transcends, like you said, different specialties. It doesn't matter as entrepreneurs in a space where most men are entrepreneurs and not women. We're often in rooms where there's more men than us. Like, how do we negotiate that? And I'm sure you can help us to kind of dive in and tackle that as well. So I think that would be great for a part two. So Morgan, we love for you to give some tips. And so I would like for you to, for those who are not even from an entrepreneurial perspective, but employees, what can they do right now? Give them 3 things that they can do or they should do, at least to position them where they know either they need to do something or they're like, oh, I'm good. Like what are 3 things you think they could do or should do right now to help maximize their earning potential in their current roles?
Yeah, great question. I'm going to say my number one thing is check out that triangulate your market value worksheet, because you can't do anything without having data. You need to know what your worth in the market is and whether or not you have a leg to stand on when it comes to that negotiation conversation. Because frankly, I do talk to people sometimes and the data shows that they're being compensated at market rate. Pay is not a one size fits all thing. It really depends on the individual and the situation that they're in. So arm yourself with knowledge, do that research into the salaries that you're expecting, and understand whether or not you are being compensated fairly. And that can either bring you peace of mind knowing that you are being compensated effectively, or it can fill you with frustration and rage and power you to move forward into that negotiation conversation. The second thing that I'm going to say is practice talking about money, practice talking about negotiation, practice saying your number out loud, whatever that reaching rate of pay is that you settled on. Scream it in your car. That I would love to have the conversation about pitching. I do some pitching coaching on the side because it's so intrinsically tied to interviewing and sales. And really, when you're looking for a job, that's what you're doing, is selling yourself. So when it comes to that number, practice your pitch. Know what it is you are asking for and back it up with explicit experiences. I like to call these brags on yourself, where you showed up, you changed revenue, you impacted a certain number of clients or maybe practitioners, whether that's helping specific people or how can you as a nurse measure your specific impact in your space, in your department, and then highlight that to have it enumerate the reasons why you deserve to be paid at the rate that you're asking for. And then I'm going to say 3 is make the ask. I always say you don't get what you don't ask for. So once you have the numbers, once you've practiced with a friend or a partner, you got to go to your manager and you got to say, I would like to have a conversation about my compensation. When's a good time for you? And I like to land on a short question that isn't a yes or no answer here. You'll notice I said when's a good time for you? That doesn't necessarily leave them space to say, never or no. That's give me a date. I want to know when we're having this conversation. So that would be the 3 things that I would highlight for somebody to get ready for their next negotiation situation.
Yeah, those are good.
I like that, especially just getting it out so that it's not all up in your head. But when you're comfortable saying it and speaking it over again, and then it kind of builds you up like, yes, I want 5,000 more. Then it'll make it easier when they go to the table and negotiate.
Yeah, for sure. And talking about money, those skills, like everything you just said, can transcend just employee and also entrepreneur. Those tips will actually help them as entrepreneurs once they get into that space as well. So Morgan, tell everyone how they can reach you on your social platforms, websites, whatever you have, where they can follow you. Please let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. So check me out. Go to my website at bragginright.com. That is BRAGGINRIGHT.com. And you can book a free consultation with me through the site if you're wondering if you're underpaid or if your resume needs a refresh or you're really dreading that upcoming interview. I can give you all of the feedback that you need to go confidently and comfortably into that next, whether it's a negotiation or interview setting. The other thing that I'll shout out is our Instagram. You can follow us at Braggin_Right. I'm always publishing blog content, articles, news, information designed to empower workers, no matter what industry you're in, and a little bit about entrepreneurs as well. So check those things out.
Love it. All right, Morgan. Well, thank you so much. And you guys who are listening, you know we're on all the platform channels, but if you're watching us on YouTube, we want to thank you guys for joining us. Morgan, you have given so much value. I can't even explain. You guys, don't be stingy. Make sure you share this podcast. If you have family, friends who are nurses, or aspiring or current entrepreneurs, we are here to serve them. That's the whole purpose of the Nurse Boss Shift. Morgan, thank you so much for joining us. Until next time. Bye.
Yeah, thanks everybody. See you.